Who is this actually good for, who should skip it, and is it worth the price for normal everyday buyers? If you're sitting on the fence about stepping up from a basic home machine to something that can truly keep pace with a serious quilting hobby, you're not alone. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent the last few weeks watching a handful of makers set up their Juki TL 2010Q, pulling apart the bonus pack, and watching the way the machine handles both speedy straight stitch runs and those delicate, dense quilt layers. The big question that kept coming up was, will this machine actually make my weekly fabric projects faster without turning my garage into a noise-filled war zone? And does the price justify the upgrade over a mid-range domestic model? First off, the TL 2010Q is marketed as a high-speed, quilting-focused workhorse. That sounds impressive on paper, but what matters in practice is how it feels when you drop a 2-pound quilt sandwich on the bed and press the foot pedal. The first thing most people notice is the motor's willingness to keep the needle dancing at 1,500 stitches per minute without stuttering. For a quilter who spends hours stitching long rows of straight seams, that speed translates into a tangible time saving, often shaving an hour or more off a project that would otherwise take a full afternoon on a slower machine. On the flip side, that same speed can be a double-edged sword for beginners. If you're still learning to control tension and stitch length, the machine will happily throw out a perfect line of stitches even when your fabric is feeding a little unevenly, which can hide small technique errors until they become a bigger problem later on. One practical strength that keeps cropping up in real-world demos is the way Juki designed the throat space. The 7-inch opening is generous enough to accommodate bulky batting or multiple layers of denim without the fabric bunching up at the edge. I watched a hobbyist assemble a 30 by 40-inch quilt top, fold in the batting, and glide the whole thing through without having to constantly reposition the fabric. That kind of freedom is a huge confidence booster for anyone who's tired of fighting their machine's limited feeding area. The downside, however, is that the larger opening makes the machine a bit heavier and bulkier on the tabletop. If you're planning to keep it on a small craft desk or need to store it in a closet, you'll need a sturdy bench or a dedicated sewing cabinet. It's not something you'll casually slide onto a kitchen counter and hide away after a quick project. The bonus pack that comes with the TL 2010Q is more than just a nice extra, it's actually part of the value proposition. Inside you'll find a set of quilting needles, a bobbin case, a few presser feet including a walking foot that's practically essential when you're moving through thick layers, and a handy dust cover. For someone buying a machine outright, those accessories often add up to $100, $150 if you purchase them separately. In the hands of a quilter who already owns a few feet, the pack feels like a thoughtful bonus, but for a beginner who might never need the walking foot, it's still nice to have the options on hand without extra cost. When it comes to durability, the TL 2010Q feels solid. The metal frame and the reinforced metal arm give the impression that it can survive a workshop environment. I saw a small business owner run a dozen shirt-making orders a day, swapping between straight and zigzag stitches, and the machine never showed signs of overheating. That reliability is exactly why many power users choose Juki over cheaper alternatives. Still, the machine does demand a bit more maintenance than a basic home model. The oiling points are clearly marked, but you have to remember to oil the moving parts regularly, about once a month if you're stitching heavily. Skipping that routine can lead to the occasional squeak or slower needle motion, something you'd notice quickly if you're using the machine daily. So, who should buy the TL 2010Q? If you're a quilter who tackles medium to large-scale projects, or a sew-along enthusiast who frequently works with heavy fabrics like canvas, denim, or multiple layers of batting, this machine will likely feel like a natural extension of your workflow. It also suits small business owners who need a reliable, fast stitch for garment production or bag making. The speed, large throat, and professional-grade feed system all line up with the demands of those use cases. On the other hand, if you're a casual sewist who mostly mends clothes, does occasional pillow covers, or enjoy stitching as a weekend hobby without the need for high velocity, you might be better off with a less expensive, lighter model. The extra speed can feel unnecessary, and the larger footprint may take up valuable space you don't really need. Price is the part that makes many people pause. The TL2010Q sits in the higher-end bracket of home machines, and the initial outlay is definitely more than a typical entry-level model. The justification, though, comes from the combination of